It's the dictionary. 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 It's the dictionary.
Hello, word nerds. Welcome to another episode of the Dictionary. Every once in a while, we have some guests on this show, and they are extra special episodes to me. So we have another guest today. We have Carina Magyar. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
You are. Way to get phonetic with it.
Yes.
Well, okay, hold on. You are pronouncing it the way I pronounce it and the way my parents pronounce it and the way their parents pronounce it. But if you go to Hungary, which the name of Hungary in Hungarian is Magyar. So that's what that name means.
Wait, Magyar means hungry in Hungary?
It means Hungarian in Hungarian.
Hungarian.
Yeah.
Whoa. Okay.
So if you go there, they're going to say Magyar. Magyar is more close to the regular pronunciation, but we don't want to be mud jar. So we go phonetic. Anyway, but oftentimes people see that G and that Y next to each other and they get fully thrown and jump off weird linguistic cliffs. And I congratulate you for just saying what you saw. That was good.
Well, right. It's just right there. If you know your letters and how they sound, you can say it. I have the added benefit of actually seeing you perform twice. I'll put perform in air quotes because it was kind of a weird show. And of course, your name was said out loud, so I had heard it before. I've seen you twice at Doug Loves Movies in the wonderful Rosemont outside of Chicago. I had a blast at both of those shows. Did you have fun?
Oh, yeah. I've loved doing that podcast. So much fun.
The first time you... he asked for movie suggestions, and you suggested, and of course I can't remember the name of it. It was the French movie with the woman who's on the car. It starts with a T.
Titan.
Yes, titanium.
It's like titanium, yeah, but French.
Right. Mm-hmm. I may have been the only audience member who knew what you were talking about because we had recently seen that movie and it's kind of amazing. So I recommend if you are of the adult persuasion, you should see that movie.
Yeah, it's definitely got a lot of explicit everything in it. Whatever you can think of that can be described as explicit, it happens in that movie.
And things that you can't think of, probably.
I hope so. I hope you're not sitting around thinking of those things. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, of course, the second time that we saw you at Doug Loves Movies, my wife came along with me, and we were in the front row, and you were there, and you kindly gifted us, I think after the show, you gifted us a little sign that has a picture of a cute cat that says, show me your Tito's. It's an ad for Tito's vodka, and we still have it up on a little shelf. Okay. So thank you for that. It has gone to a good home.
Yeah, that was... I don't remember any of that, but no, I do remember now that you've mentioned it, but like I had forgotten that I had a little sign that said, show me your Tito's. I'm glad it's with you. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I don't think you probably wanted it.
No.
So it was fun to meet you a couple of times, talk to you a little bit, and then I had mentioned to get you on this show. I didn't know for what, other than just to talk with you more and have a fun place to just be silly. But then I was getting close to a certain word, estrogen, and I thought that I felt like I needed a guest on this episode. As me, a straight white cis male, probably has no good things to no, that's not what I meant to say. Has no intelligent things to say about estrogen. And then you came to mind. So could you describe why you are the perfect guest for today?
Oh God, it's probably because I eat estrogen by the handful every morning and night.
Where do you go? You shop bulk at Costco?
No, close, very close. I shop bulk at CVS Online Pharmacy, and before that, various Canadian concerns. So I'm transgender, so I take a hormone replacement therapy cycle that involves a lot of estrogen. So not only do I know about the hormone, I know about its synthetic versions. I know what the side effects are. I know why I get my blood drawn every 3 months. Like there's a lot I know about this word. Yeah, so I'm happy to talk about it. I think it's fascinating stuff. And you actually could talk about this more than you think. You have a lot more estrogen in your body than you know.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, the brain, the body knows, but the brain doesn't know. You know, like I'm aware that we all have all the hormones, but some have it in various ratios. But other than like high school biology class, I couldn't really say a whole lot.
That's kind of
Other
funny
than
that
that.
you say it that way because I don't know your BMI, and we'll get into that later.
Okay.
But it is highly likely that the body part of yours that produces the most estrogen is your brain. So,
Mm.
yeah,
Mm. Interesting. Well, when we get to that
we'll
word
get
at
to
the
it.
end of the episode, we'll dig into all that stuff even more.
Oh, we're going to
Um,
hit this word way earlier than you think.
well, that's
Like
fair. I
half the
did do.
words on this sheet.
Yeah. I did do a quick read through, and I was like, oh yeah, actually, yeah. There's other words that we will definitely have some things to say about.
Yeah.
So this is the beginning of the episode. Could you just sort of tell the people a little bit more about who you are, what you
Oh,
do, how you
yeah.
got to where you are doing things?
Sure. Yeah. No, I do stand-up comedy, which is probably the reason I am here. But I also do some podcasting myself. I do a lot of things with movie riffing. I have a show on Twitch every Tuesday called Botch Party, where we kind of mystery science theater style
Hmm.
watch obscure or weird movies and just talk over them. And then I also am a writer. I've written a children's book, and I used to be a journalist for a long time, so I have a lot of writing that's out there. And so that's kind of my story. Those are my things that I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the kids' book called?
It's called For the Kingdom, and there are 4 copies left in this world. But
What?
if you talk to me and are really nice, I might sell you one of them. And yeah, it was a project I worked on for a long time with an illustrator friend of mine in Austin, Texas, named Damian DiMartino, who I highly recommend looking up his stuff. And it was just a real fun project. Took 10 years to put together.
Oh my God.
Yeah, they're
Well,
they're
that's
hard work.
yeah. I guess depends on like how complicated the story is, the illustrations are, all that stuff. So
Yeah.
that's really cool that you actually finished it and put it out into the world.
Yeah, it's not like an alphabet book. It was a full fantasy story. It was sort of like
Oh.
what if we made a Lord of the Rings aimed at 8th graders kind of thing.
Oh.
Or not 8th graders, 8-year-olds.
Okay.
Yeah, but not Lord of the Rings. It's a little less complicated than that. High
Sure.
fantasy
I
though,
mean,
princes and princesses and magic and dragons and all
yeah.
those things. Yeah.
For 8-year-olds, that's perfect.
Yeah.
I love it. So let's see, writing, comedy. I was watching a bit of your stand-up on your YouTube page, which of course I will put in the show notes so people can go watch and subscribe to your channel. I did see a lot of movie videos there, so I wanted to ask you: those were all like 4 years ago? Did that turn into Botch Party, or what? What is all this stuff? Because I'll just preface this by saying I love movies. I want to do more talking about movies, similar to what you said, Mystery Science Theater. I want to watch them and talk about them at the same time. And I did that once with my friend in this very office. We watched a movie and talked about it, but I want to do a whole lot more. So tell me about that.
Yeah, so gosh, the podcast that you probably found all over my YouTube page was called Thanks Academy. And that was a project that I had going in Austin with my stand-up comedy friends there when I lived there for a long time. Where we would watch all the best picture winners according to the Oscars in kind of a random order with a random friend. So I'd call a comic up that I liked and I'd tell them to pick a number from 1 to 20. And then I would multiply that number by a dice roll that I did. And then I had a complicated chart that pulled a random best picture winner. And then we would have to watch it. And the thing is I discovered I had only seen 10 of the best picture winners before I'd started that podcast, and how few of those best pictures, especially outside of like your early lifespan, that you actually have watched, unless you like really make a point of it. And so we were almost always watching them fresh, and I just had a microphone in there and I just recorded our reactions to it and then chopped them up into like a 45-minute episode that had a little bit of preamble of what we thought the movie was going to be like, a little bit of like postscript on like what the heck just happened. And also, does this movie hold up? And a lot of times it does not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you watched the movie together, and then you just recorded the audio, but you were talking about it while you were watching it.
We
So
were
you don't-
watching it.
And you don't get the audio of the movie.
You hear it a little bit in the backgrounds, but
Okay.
I never have longer than a 30-second clip to avoid, problems.
Yeah.
And it's just in the background. It's mostly our reactions you hear. I leave enough noise in the background so you can kind of tell what we're reacting to, whether it's a battle or a line or something like that. But yeah, it was a fun project. But unfortunately, after I moved to Chicago, I had to pause it because I didn't have enough buddies anymore. So I had to build my buddies back
Yeah.
up, and I might start it back up, but now I've got too many other things going on. Anyway, through that,
Yeah.
I was also working with Master Pancake Theater in Austin, Texas, which is a live at the Alamo Draft House show that does movie riffing. We watch a movie, we make jokes about it. And that was kind of my main comedy gig there for a long time. And so when I moved to Chicago, I wanted to do it again. I talked to John, John Earler, if you know Doug Loves Movies, he's on there from time to time. And he was very gracious and encouraged me to try. And so I got it going, not doing it live, doing it on Twitch. And we're hoping to maybe build up enough of a following there that we could do some live stuff. But by doing it on Twitch, we don't have to worry so much about rights.
Okay.
Let's just be honest.
It's not live streaming, or is it live streaming?
It's live streaming.
Live streaming, but because of that,
they don't care.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
I mean, they're supposed to care. Legally, it's a problem, but we shrink the screen down. We talk over the whole movie. I think under fair use laws, what we're doing is perfectly legit. But every single streaming service besides Twitch pulls it down the minute we put it up. So
gotcha.
That's why we're there.
Any particular highlights? That's the one that's called Botch Party.
Yeah. We've done we did LaQuisha. Are you familiar with this movie?
I don't think so.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Should I be?
No. It's a movie that this failed comedian from some scene made where he fantasized about being a radio DJ, straight white guy, as a sassy black woman. And it takes off and it's really popular. But then, of course, there's inherent problems in that he is not a sassy black woman. So he hires one to play him in real. It's a mess. It is the most racially tone deaf movie I've ever seen. And it came out like 3 years ago. So there's none excuse. It's not from the 80s. It's not. Yeah.
Then it would make sense.
No, this came out like in the pandemic. Yeah. So that was kind of a fun one. And this will probably come out afterwards, but we are watching Defula, which is a 1975 all-American Sign Language version of Dracula.
Oh, wow.
It's totally silent. And that's going to be a blast. But like I said, since these are live streaming, once they're there, they're gone. There's no way to go back and watch them. So you got to get on our train and subscribe to our channel and stuff.
So I'm only semi-familiar with Twitch in that I know that it exists and it is often live streaming, but so don't you have the ability to keep them up there, or do you just choose not to do that?
Our fans can clip parts of our show and post them, but we don't. Okay. And that's because we're not paying the creators of these pieces. Right. It wouldn't be cool.
But then, you're dealing with legal issues that if you did keep it up there, then you would have some legal problems. Then you would have to take it, or they would probably take it down.
I mean, that would be wrong. But live streaming, it's fair use. It's a movie. It's a watch party. That's why we call it Watch Party.
Yeah.
So it's once it's up, it's gone. So you got to kind of catch them while they happen. I have archival shows that I can replay from time to time, and I may in the future once we build up a backlog, but right now it's a live show. You got to catch it live.
So if you want to hear some funny people say some funny stuff about some interesting movies, it sounds like
weird movies, the weirdest.
I'll definitely put the link to that in the show notes. I'm gonna have to. So who do you have on that show? Is it other comedians?
It's myself, Adam Quaslow, and Aaron McDavis. So we're all Chicago stand-up comics. We might start having some guest stars from time to time in the future as well. But right now, just the three of us every Tuesday at 7.
7 Central.
Yeah.
All right. Put it on your calendars. Sweet. Yeah, I'm very curious. I've been seeing your posts about that. I'm like, what is this? Something about movies. I don't have time, but I'm very curious. So yeah, I might have to dig into those and also look at these other podcasts that you've got on your YouTube channel. I'm seeing, Forrest Gump, Lord of the Rings, Amadeus, Schindler's List. I mean, the list goes on and on.
Yeah, we got about
Yeah.
2/3 of the way through all the Best Picture winners when I had to put it on pause. So yeah,
Maybe someday that'll come back too.
yeah. Darn
All right.
pandemic. Ugh.
Yeah, that ruined everything. All right. Well, anything else that is important to know about who Carina Magyar is?
I think we've covered the basics.
That's everything.
Enough for a dictionary page.
Yeah, probably more than we needed.
Yeah.
But I was very curious about those things, so we had to talk about them. So this is the part of the show where we now start talking about the words. Let's see. The first word is estivation. estivation. You can also spell it with an A at the beginning if you are feeling old and fancy. This word is a noun from 1625. It is the state of one that estivates. Well, if you heard the previous episode, then you would know what I'm talking about, but I haven't even recorded it, so I don't know what estivating is. Should we take a look? Let's take a look.
Feels like cheating.
It does. Let's see.
Ooh, let me guess before you look it up.
Yes,
Okay,
please.
Okay, let me see. The state of one who estivates. So a person who estivates, it's not estimate. So like if estimate is to guess, then I think estivate means to know. I think it means knowing the answer, but nobody believes you and they think you're guessing and they're all drunk and you're drunk and nobody's going to buy it until you get your phone out and prove to them that you're right.
I think you just estivated that because you know that, don't you?
No, I guessed. I estimated.
You are just so close.
Oh.
So close, but you are very wrong. This is to spend the summer usually at one place or to pass the summer in a state of torpor. So it's just like I'm going to hang out at a place, when people go rent a cabin for the summer or go to a resort or something, that they're just estivating,
I see.
I guess.
Okay.
They're doing an estivation.
It's got a root in the Latin for summer. I see it now. All right. I was way off.
Yeah, there must be. Did you ever estivate as a kid with your family?
Oh yeah, all the time. I estivate in the winter. That's how dedicated I am to it. I do it wrong.
Yeah, it does actually say the synonym is hibernate.
Hibernate.
So,
yeah.
Yeah, I love to hibernate. I wish I could actually sleep through the 6 months of Chicago winter.
Yeah, that's the best way to do it. I guess you're kind of like autumnating and whatever the spring Latin root is.
Vernaling?
Vernalating?
I think vernalating. Yeah.
Yeah, that
I think
sounds
that's it. Yeah.
That sounds dirty. I like that.
Don't fact check us on that. We're just right. We know that. Okay. After each word, I like to make a sound effect with my mouth. And so that just says that word's done. Here comes the next word. Would you like to make a sound effect with your mouth?
No, I'll let you do it. You sound like
Okay.
a war practice.
And usually it's just like a woo sound.
Oh.
So let's see. Anything estivation? I don't know. Like ba-dum-bum bump. We'll do that.
That sounds summery.
It's very summery. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm feeling like I'm estivating when I go boom boom bump. All right.
Okay.
And if you feel up to it, you could take some of those as well throughout the episode.
If I move to make a noise, I will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. The next word is Estonian with a capital E. Noun from 1795. Number 1, a native or inhabitant of Estonia. I think you and I are pretty close to the same age. Do you remember the movie Encino Man?
Yes.
I think when they introduced the caveman to his parents, they said, he's from Estonia. And I thought that was very funny, but I also didn't realize it was a real place until I was an adult.
I'm trying to think if when Encino Man came out, it may have been the year Estonia got its independence.
What?
From the USSR.
How do you know this?
Because that was, 92?
I'm going to look it up.
I am too. I am too. This is important to me.
Is it that? Oh yeah, 92.
It is 92.
92.
Yeah. And the USSR started to break up in 91, 92, and Estonia was one of the first countries out, along with Latvia and Lithuania. Yeah.
With your connection to Hungary, is that why you have maybe some extra knowledge than somebody like me who doesn't?
No, although I'm glad you brought that up because that's coming up. But yeah, no, I had a character I did for a couple of years in Austin called the Flag Hag, where I would just share hopefully humorous geography facts, and so I learned a lot about geography.
Did you already know a lot about geography?
I knew the flags of the world, and I tried to turn that into something funny, but the flags themselves weren't quite funny enough. I had to dive a little deeper.
Nobody has made any funny flags around the world, have they?
Oh my God. No, there's hilarious flags all over the place, especially in Russia. Some of the Russian, like they call their states oblasts. They have like 50 of them or something, 75 of them. There's a ton.
The flag hag is coming out.
The craziest flags you'll ever see. Bears doing things you've never seen bears do before. Bad cartoon drawings of like plows. It's wonderful. There's some hilarious flags out there, but they're pretty obscure.
The Russian states, I definitely don't know those. But nothing is funny on purpose, which makes me sad.
I hope they are on purpose.
There's got to be some. There's got to be.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, back to Estonia. It's obviously related to Encino Man. Number 2, the Finno-Ugric language of the Estonian people. That's Finno, Finno -Ugric, Ugric. I had no idea that their language wasn't just called Estonian.
Well, it is. It's called Estonian, but it's part of that language group, which is the weirdest language group in Europe. And you seem like you already know about this, so I'll let you have it.
Oh, no, I think you probably should tell the people. I mean, I know, but I want you I want to hear it come from you because you probably have more information.
So as far as like German or European languages go, you've got your Germanic languages, you've got your Latin languages, you've got your Slavic languages, and that covers almost everybody. And then there's the Finno-Ugric language group that doesn't belong to any of those and is named because it's basically Finnish from Finland and Hungarian, Magyar, and nobody's quite sure how that happened.
Right,
it has something to do with the Mongols, but
of course
it's complicated. Yeah, I think people have more idea than I'm putting on, but I stopped my linguistics degree before I dug into it. So yeah,
you are more perfect for this episode than we ever could have imagined. Finnish and Hungarian together has made Estonian. Do you know, are there other languages in the area that are in that part of that language group?
Yes, but they are not national languages. So they're not as big as Finnish Estonian, which is basically Finnish with a drunken accent, and then Magyar, which is also called Ugyur, which is part of that Magyar. I mean, it's really hard to pronounce the Hungarian language. And I have the genes for it, and I can't do it. But yeah, then it's just a bunch of regional stuff. And then the only tie they've been able to find is in some of the Mongol dialects, which is why they're thinking it had to do with the mysterious invaders from the east.
That is fascinating. I'll put a link in the show notes for Estonian, Estonia, the people, the language, all that stuff, because you could dig into that for a while.
It's a cool place. I want to go someday. It's kind of near the St. Petersburg, Finland part of the Baltic Sea. Pretty place.
That's cool. Someday. I assume have you been to Hungary to visit nothing? No?
No. I have not been farther east than Austria, so I have come short.
Okay. Someday you'll get out there. I can feel it in my bones.
I'm planning.
But you have to learn the Finno-Ugric language family first.
No, thank you. The only reason I'm going to Hungary is to yell at the president of Hungary for giving me the last name that everybody made fun of when I was a kid. So that's my only plan there.
Sounds like the right person to yell at.
They're in charge.
Yeah, obviously. Of all the Hungarians.
They're the most Hungarian. Yeah.
Yeah. That's how you get the role of president. You are the most of that country.
They have a contest. It involves sweat and the tasting and smelling of. It's very interesting. No, I don't know enough. Yeah.
What are the Hungarians getting down to? Okay, it's sound effect time. Would you like to do the sound effect?
For Estonian?
No, just the same one that we did before.
Whoosh.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, all right.
We whooshed away from Estonia, and we are now moving to istop. It's literally the word stop with an E at the beginning. This is a verb from the 15th century. It's a transitive verb. Number 1, this is archaic, and it means to stop up. Like if your drain is stopped up, or if you are stopping up your drain by putting all of your hair into the shower drain, then you would be stopping the drain. And that example is so perfect for... I was just watching one of your stand-up videos, and you talked about, Drano, liquid plumber, that kind of thing. Well, I'm not going to get into the details of that one here on this family-friendly podcast, but if you would like to check it out, go check out her YouTube channel. Number 2, the synonym is bar, like to stop, I assume, because it's the word estop, but specifically to impede by estoppel with an L at the end. Estoppel. We'll talk about that one in a minute. But yeah, this is all about just stopping a thing. Let's talk about the etymology, which says this is from Anglo-French, estupere. Do you speak French? Do you know French at all?
Yeah, French is it's not my second language or anything. I'm not fluent, but that's the language I've studied the most, yeah.
Okay, so how would you pronounce E-S-T-O-P-E-R?
Estope. So that's a regular verb. That's the ER at the end of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't even know if this is current French, though, or archaic
It
French.
says Anglo-French, so yeah, it's going to be like a little bit
Yeah.
of a different form. Also from the vulgar Latin stupare, which means to stop with a toe, T-O-W, not the toe on your foot. So yeah, it's all about stopping something. Well, because the word estoppel was mentioned, should we just go right into
Whoosh.
that one?
Yeah, we got to get that out of the way.
We do. Estoppel, noun from 1531. This is a legal bar to alleging or denying a fact because of one's own previous actions or words to the contrary. This is a legal situation. Did you understand any of what that meant?
Yeah, basically, if you've admitted to something before in court, you cannot then change your mind about it.
That makes sense.
That's my take. It's sort of like it's like an instant or an interrupt in Magic the Gathering. I feel like you can pull out the estoppel card and keep somebody from playing their card.
Right. And it sounds like it can go either way.
Yeah.
Alleging or denying. So if you deny that you did something, you can't later say that you did it, or vice versa. I did this thing, but now I'm denying it later. That's not possible.
Yeah.
We got to throw an estoppel on that situation.
You can't be like, my friend had nothing to do with this, and then as soon as you're pronounced guilty, go, my friend did it all. You can't do that.
No.
Don't try
Your
it.
friend's going to be pissed as well.
They're going to stop you.
I'm going to put a stop on you. It's a stopper. I got nothing. Yeah, this is just it's all about stopping. That's what it is.
Yeah.
But I wonder how they use this. It's a legal bar. So is this like a lawyer says, that's an estoppel? I don't know how they use this in context.
Yeah, I don't know if it's even like, like current. Like I would think this would fall under more perjury under our current legal language, but I am many things. A lawyer's not one of them. And so I don't know if this is the way they say it in court. I don't know if they like objection, estoppel. Like I've never seen that in Law and Order, so I don't know.
Yeah, maybe it's just a very old thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
I thought you were a lawyer, which would have been great, but I guess all of these other things that you are, I'll have to just accept all those. 6
more years of school before I can be on this podcast.
Yeah. When I get to the word lawyer, you can come back. Okay. Sound effect.
Oh, that was nice.
we are now getting into a more familiar area other than legal bars. We have the prefix estra or estro, ESTR, or you could put an O. And it means estrus, as in the example, estrogen.
Yeah.
Let's see, estrus, that's with a US, that's going to be in the next episode. But, can you give us a little preview of what that is, if you would like to?
Oh, there's so much. Let's go with because it's the Greek. It's a Greek word, which looks like oistros, oistros, and they use that word to talk about madness.
There's also the Latin estrus, which means gadfly or frenzy.
Frenzy is another word that often gets, and the reason they talk about estrus with that association is because they observed that female animals on the farm, when they got into heat, were hard to manage, were rambunctious, were a little different. They went a little crazy, you could say. And so that was always there, kind of having that meaning. And then it was put into place like the 19th century. I think they started applying it more definitely to the hormones that are caused by the reproductive cycle in females. But it started talking about animals and their craziness.
They get into a frenzy. Yeah, it shows the synonym heat, and I've definitely heard that a lot. When the cat's in heat, the dog's in heat. They're ready. They're ready to do the mating. Is basically their hormones are telling them, hey, it's time to get going. Let's make some babies.
Yep.
Right now, please.
And this leads to like the number one misconception about medieval times, which
the place where they do the jousting?
No, the place where we lived 600 years ago.
Oh, that one.
Yeah, which is that what people don't understand about that era is that they tend to think of it the way the Victorians rewrote medieval history, which is like Victorian sexual standards: be polite to women, hand them your coat, open the door, treat them like, trophies, and be gentle with the gentle women. But in medieval Europe, women be crazy. They be absolute sex crazed. Like, men were encouraged to stay away from women because all women could think about was sex. Women walked around all day long just thinking about sex because they were full of estrogen. And they observed this in animals, and then they applied it to women. And so the sort of roles that we have now in our head about which gender thinks about sex more have completely reversed since medieval times, which I think is fascinating.
That is fascinating. What happened? I mean, society happened, right? The patriarch, yeah.
Well, I think what happened was it's not true. Neither is true. And we just slowly changed our mind about making up which one is true based on kind of what is and isn't allowed behavior-wise in society.
Right. Yeah, because it seems like you can't say all of the women are like this, all the men are like this. There's obviously, it's a spectrum. Some are going to have more hormones running through their system than others, and some are going to be sex crazed and some are not. And
yeah. So there's horny women and there's horny men, and there's non-horny both. I know. But like, for some reason, our society wants to like definitively come down on the subject with a truth about which gender in general is hornier. And we could unpack that all day. There's just no clear-cut way of defining any of the words I just said.
That's my next podcast, Who's the Horniest? Yeah. Every episode, I don't know how it works, but we'll figure it out.
Who got that estrus?
Yeah, who got that estrus? So yeah, the example is estrogen. So the estro prefix just means estrus. That's the time. I mean, basically, I'm just skimming through this. It's the time, a regularly recurrent state of sexual excitability.
Yeah, of horniness.
That's what it is. They didn't put the synonym horny in there.
But that's what they meant.
That seems odd for the dictionary.
That's the kind of frenzy they were talking about. Yeah, let's be honest. Yeah,
you got to read between the lines.
Mm-hmm. Of course, we
Okay.
were misreading animal behavior. We thought the women were getting all horny and randy, but they were actually just knowing that they had to get ready to run because they were going to smell a certain way, and men be coming.
That there's layers to that one. Let's make a
Mm-hmm.
sound effect. Do you want to do it?
Whoosh.
Whoosh. Okay, the next word is estradiol. Estradiol. This is a noun. You could also say estradiol. Noun from 1934. This is a long definition. A natural estrogenic hormone that is a phenolic alcohol C18H24O2 secreted chiefly by the ovaries that is the most potent of the naturally occurring estrogens and that is administered in its natural or semi-synthetic esterified form, especially to treat menopausal symptoms.
Yeah.
Lot to unpack there. Real quick, let's look at the etymology. I mean, we know it's from the estro prefix, but also from estrange, which is the parent compound of estradiol. That's pretty much it etymologically.
Yeah. So, oh boy.
Yeah. Good luck.
Okay, estradiol is the medicine that I take.
Okay.
It is the synthesized esterified form to treat menopausal symptoms of which they were speaking. And yes, estradiol's been around since they've been able to synthesize and understand sex hormones in about the early 20th century as a medication prescribed to women for that long. It is generic. It is cheap. It is widely available. It can be taken as a tablet or injected. And all it does is just put estrogen into a body that did not have enough estrogen in it before, which is why it's given to women who are going through a rough menopause to sort of ease that down and taper that down, so to speak. Or anybody else who might want some estrogen in their bodies. Yeah.
Real quick from the menopausal section, we'll just quickly say for anybody's out there who's listening who doesn't know a lot about that, that's basically the time of somebody's life where essentially, I'm gonna basic this real good. Essentially, the ovaries are not releasing any more eggs or getting close to the end, and so there's not as much estrogen or other similar hormones being released into the body, and so the body's dealing with that change. And this is it's a multi-year long change, and so that's why what you're saying is that's why they originally created this sort of to say, okay, well here's some estrogen, so you have a more taper off this this estrogen deficiency. That's probably not the correct term, but that's basically what it is. You're not getting as much estrogen, so we're going to give you some so you don't deal with bad menopausal symptoms that come from that.
That is one of the more common reasons to be prescribed estrogen.
Right.
I think it was originally developed for people who had to have their ovaries removed due to cancer or something like that. And in that case, you get a sudden drop off of estrogen.
Yeah.
And it can be quite uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So it's a lot less, sort of gradual than natural menopause typically is. Although, of course, as in nature, anything can happen quickly or slowly. So there's people who naturally menopause real hard, and they need some help. And yeah,
you're menopausing so hard.
The other interesting thing about estradiol is, and I'm going to double check myself on this, but I'm pretty sure it is the active ingredient in birth control. And I'm going to double check that. Yes. So that is what birth control pills are. They are basically estradiol with a little bit of another, it's an ethylenic alcohol instead of a phenolenic alcohol. So there is a difference chemically. But essentially when you're on birth control pills, all you're doing is telling your body, don't listen to the ovaries, listen to me. Here's when the hormones are on, here's when they're off. And that's what causes sort of an egg drop on a cycle.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You don't have any egg drops.
No, only if I go to Chinese restaurants. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't really know the right questions to ask, but I guess you said that you take this specifically. Are there other ones that you take, or is this the main thing?
Yeah, so there were, and I'll walk you through this. Don't worry, baby bird, I got you.
Oh,
So
thanks.
yeah, so like I've had gender confirmation surgery, which means that I've had all the stuff downstairs cleaned up. Prior to that, there's two main factories for these sex hormones that we all know of, estrogen and testosterone, right? They're the same factory. They just,
Yeah.
and we'll get into maybe now, maybe a little later, exactly how those factories work. But while you have your testosterone factory attached to your body, you got to shut that down.
Testicles. Let's say the testicles.
The testicles are what they are.
And
Yeah.
yeah.
The gonads. And that can be done with something that stops testosterone
Hey.
called spironolactone. And it basically does the opposite of what estradiol does. It tells your body, don't cut it out. And so that I was taking while I needed to. And then once I removed the factory, I didn't need to take that anymore. And now I can just add estrogen. But it was a 2-step process for a while. Cut off testosterone, add estrogen. And that gets the overall levels in the body to flip.
Yeah. So yeah, that was the opposite of so the removing of the testicles would be the equivalent of having ovaries removed or
Yes.
hysterectomy or gradually going through menopause. But you're doing it from the other side,
Yes.
saying slow down on the testosterone
Yes.
until we remove the testicles.
Yeah, and they're pretty good at, they can get it past slow down, and they can basically say stop.
Okay, yeah,
which is
yeah.
great. Now, there are body changes that happen in puberty due to your balance of sex hormones that don't care what's going on now. They just care what happened when you were 15, and they'll keep going. So just turning your testosterone off and adding estrogen in doesn't stop things like facial hair. It doesn't change your voice at all. Stuff that was like kind of a permanent decision your body made way back then. But it does kind of slow down the day-to-day feelings and muscle recovery and some of the other things that testosterone provides. And so that's why men who go through menopause, because they also do, your testicles shut down, or at least greatly decrease in their output as you get older, will take testosterone and get some of those things back. Some of those strength and conditioning and body fat suppressing benefits that testosterone brings.
Mm-hmm.
And that's called, I think, andriol. Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard of that and know, like, yeah, the andro prefix is related to testosterone and quote unquote male related things.
And that's fun because the prefix for lady hormones is you crazy, and the prefix for male hormones is you a person, because it just means human.
And yeah, right. What do we have the etymology for? There's no etymology for the estro prefix, but I'm sure somewhere in here we're gonna see something.
It's estrus. It's oestrus. Yep.
Yeah, right. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
right. You said it's the Greek. It doesn't say what the Greek word. Oh, but there's another word. If we're skipping ahead to the next episode, it says there's more at the word ire, I-R-E.
Ooh, I didn't know about that connection. That's fun.
Yeah,
Rage.
fun.
Women
right?
be full of rage too.
Oh, geez. Okay.
But
Well,
only that time of the month. Okay.
yeah. Let's just say also, every person is different, and we can't make judgments across a whole group of people because everybody is different.
No person is defined by the way the dictionary says things. That's for sure.
And the dictionary says things.
It sure does.
Okay, well, on a similar note, whew, that's the sound effect.
Yeah. Speaking
we
of
have
that time of the month.
yeah. We have estral cycle, 2 words, noun from 1941, and the synonym is just estrus cycle, which will also be in the next episode based on the alphabet. So yeah, if you know what the estrus cycle is, it's also used to be called estral cycle with an L. Anything about that?
I mean, if you don't know what that is, that's a whole course in high school that you should have had.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. There should be more teaching about that probably in our schools. yeah, you just got to wait until the next episode to learn about what the dictionary has to say about the estrus cycle. Can you please make a sound effect?
Whoosh.
Okay, our next word. I don't think this is related to what we've been talking about. It's the word estrange. This one is a verb from the 15th century. It's a transitive verb. Number 1, to remove from customary environment or associations. So this thing was so happy over here, maybe not so happy. It was customary to be over here, but then it got removed and it got sent somewhere else, and it has been estranged.
The old fish out of water.
Yeah.
Speaking of Encino Man.
Oh, boy, yeah. He was very estranged. Did you grow up in Austin, and then were you estranged from Austin and when you went to Chicago?
No, I grew up in Denver. And yeah, I was a Colorado girl until I was 25 or so. And then I went off to graduate school to study linguistics, and I changed my mind in Australia, which has nothing to do with estrogen. It's not Australia. And then when I came back, I made a go of it in California. And then that got too expensive, so I moved to Austin because at the time, in 2009, it was a cool, cheap place to live. It is still a cool place to live. It is no longer a cheap place to live.
I was going to say it's a cool, expensive place now.
It's a cool,
probably.
expensive place,
Yeah.
exactly. And then I just I had reasons for not wanting to live in Texas that you can surmise, I'm sure. So that's when I decided to move finally to my dream city of Chicago, where I've wanted to live since I was in my early 20s.
We're so happy that you finally got here.
Yay!
And things are going well in Chicago.
I love it here. Yeah, they're going great. I do not feel estranged one bit. The only time I felt estranged was in Texas. Not in Austin so much. Great, friendly place to be, but the broader Texan. I went to Fort Worth once. That is the most estranged I think I've ever felt. Yeah.
I've been to a few cities in Texas for work, and I've never made it to Austin, and I've wanted to make it to Austin because it seems like it's the one cool city in Texas.
Oh,
and
it would love you to say that, but Houston is cool as hell. You gotta know where to look in Houston. It's like Chicago. It's so big that you could definitely get trapped in a boring place, but Houston's really cool too.
Yeah, that's the thing. Typically, the cities are cooler than the other parts.
Typically.
Yeah.
Not in New Mexico. It's kind of the opposite there, which is weird.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So number 2 for estrange is to arouse especially mutual enmity or indifference in where there had formerly been love, affection, or friendliness, and the synonym is alienate. So the first example I think of in this situation is like being estranged from a parent, a child, a friend, something like that, where you used to have love and affection, or maybe had some level of love and affection, and now you're like, you feel strange to me, so we are now estranged.
So, boy, I should have covered more of my biography than I thought. So I've been divorced twice, and when you get divorced, you have to give a reason. And those reasons no longer have to be very good or specific.
Yeah.
And if you don't want to have a good or specific one, the way the media says it is irreconcilable differences, but the way the court says it, the legal term, the stopping legal term is estrangement. Isn't that lovely? Like you've become such different people that you are now once again strangers. So lovely. It's a good feeling when you're getting divorced. Yes. Estrange us, please.
We are feeling very strange to each other.
Yes.
I mean, that's kind of like often it's like when people get divorced, you're like, oh, I'm sorry, but usually it's the right thing to do. It's for a good reason. You have grown apart, or for whatever reason, the love and affection isn't there as much as it used to. And yes, it's now okay. Let's maybe be strangers to each other.
Yeah.
Estrangement is a noun, and a stranger is a noun. So yes, literally. The person who you don't have as much love and affection or friendliness to is a stranger to you.
Oh, that's a good name for an ex. I'm going to use that one in a sentence, I'm sure, many times in the next week.
Yeah. Oh, my estranger? You're talking about my estranger? Let's see. What's the etymology say? It's from the Latin extraneus, which means strange. And I mean, it literally looks like the word extraneous. Like, oh, it's a little bit too much. It's strange to me. We don't need so much of that. Yeah, there's more at the word strange.
Yeah, in French, it's étranger.
Étranger. It's
Étranger.
way fancier.
It's way fancier. They took the S out
Yeah.
because that was strange to them.
We are not friendly with the S's anymore. You got to get out of here.
They aren't. It's hard to think of French words where they pronounce the S.
Yeah, really.
It's only a special few.
We'll spell it, but we're not going to say
We're not going to say it unless it's monsieur. That's the only time. And then we put a lot of S on it. Yeah.
We have some synonym information for estrange, which is always fun. The words estrange, alienate, and disaffect mean to cause one to break a bond of affection or loyalty. Estrange implies the development of indifference or hostility with consequent separation or divorcement, as in his estranged wife.
Well, hold on now. It could be her estranged wife, too.
It could be. I'm hoping new versions of the dictionary starts to mix up the examples a little bit.
Their estranged partner. That's what they.
Yeah.
That's the way they do that now.
There you go. Alienate may or may not suggest separation, but always implies loss of affection or interest, as in managed to alienate all his coworkers. What did he do?
In this case, I think the pronoun is correct.
Yes. More
did that.
likely.
It's his fault.
He was having a bad day, bad life. I don't know. The third one, disaffect, refers especially to those from whom loyalty is expected and stresses the effects of alienation without actual separation. And the example of the effects would be rebellion or discontent. The example is troops disaffected by hunger. I also hear the disaffected youth when we're talking about those grungy kids in the 90s.
Oh, they were so disaffected.
Disaffected.
I was disaffected right alongside them.
Were you wearing lots of flannel and
I
things
still
like
do.
That? Yeah.
I haven't changed that uniform.
A disaffected adult.
Yeah.
Refers especially to those loyalty is expected and stresses. Yeah, so they're disaffected from like the adults, the authority figures. The disaffected youth are like, don't keep me down, man. I'm got to do my own thing.
Yeah, I'm affecting other things right now.
Yeah.
My affections are elsewhere.
I don't have affection for you because you are estranged to me.
Oh boy, pile it on.
Whoom. Sound effect. We have now the word estray. This is the first form, noun from circa 1523, and the synonym is the first definition for the word stray, like, well, it's a noun, so maybe like a stray cat. Something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Can you make it? Yeah?
I love when they say it's from the 1500s because I'm always like, blame Shakespeare.
Yeah, he did it.
You can tell who was borrowing those French words.
Right. Or creating their own words.
And making them famous. Yeah.
Can you make a sound effect, please?
Whoosh.
The second form of estray is an intransitive verb from the 1572 year. And this one is archaic, and the synonym is stray. So because it's a verb, I'm thinking stray away, wander around, maybe something like that. But it's archaic, so you can't say it.
I'm pretty sure that noun's archaic too, but whatever. You do you, dictionary.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We're coming back. We're coming back to the good words. Phew. The next word is estriol. No, the emphasis is at the beginning. Estriol. Or you can emphasize the second syllable, estriol or estriol. This is a noun from 1933. We got some more chemical letters and numbers things. This is a relatively weak natural estrogenic hormone that is a glycol C18H24O3 found in the body chiefly as a metabolite of estradiol, is the main estrogen secreted by the placenta during pregnancy, and is the estrogen typically found in the urine of pregnant women.
That is what a pregnancy test is looking for.
Oh.
Is estradiol.
Let's see. Anything else? Yeah,
If you ever thought it was just baby's breath
Oh,
or
it
extra
sounds so
DNA or something like that.
Right.
No, it's a chemical that's only made by placenta and placental activity.
It's a hormone. It's a relatively weak hormone. So I would assume that probably everybody has it, but when you're pregnant, that's when the body's like, we got to kick it up a notch.
Nope, this is the one that you have to be female-bodied, cisgender female to make.
Now,
Because it only gets made during placental activity, and that is not something that
okay.
men have the equipment to do. So, yeah, but it's weak in the sense that it has very little effect on the, let's say, host body. Let's
Right.
call it that. It is there mainly to, and I don't know the science exactly here, but it's there mainly to create that placenta and bond it and do things like that inside the uterus.
Telling the body to create these things because you're about to grow a living thing inside of you.
Yeah, it's like a bridge kind of thing. But again, I don't know the science very well. I just know that it's only associated with pregnancy.
So your body wouldn't be, a person who can create a placenta wouldn't be creating this until they become pregnant.
Yes. I mean, if you are maybe a little bit of stray stuff just due to biological accident, but in an amount that's noticeable in your pee, no. And that's
Right,
why pregnancy tests work
Yeah.
and are fairly foolproof, minus environmental factors of what you did with the stick and what you ate. If you're eating
Yeah.
placentas, that might affect things. But
That could change things.
I'm
Yeah.
kind of joking, but people do sometimes keep and eat the placenta for reasons, and
Absolutely.
that will trigger a positive pregnancy test.
I've heard that it's good for your hair, probably good for your skin. I don't know. It's filled with nutrients because the baby is, taking all that stuff. So there's probably a lot of good stuff in there.
Yeah, it's like a croissant.
It's chock full of estradiol.
It's not chock full of estradiol. By that point, I think it's not full of estradiol. It's full of other good things. If you're just eating estradiol, I would recommend a more balanced diet.
And why would I don't think there's probably any reason why you would want to be eating or consuming estradiol in any way.
It comes out in your pee. I think it just moves right through you. I
Yeah.
don't think the body needs it unless you're unless you're building a little placenta in there. Yep.
That little home, a womb with a view.
Yeah.
Okay, sound effect. Shoom. We now have estrogen. Now, based on estradiol and estriol, those both said, I think, that they are estrogens. They are a type of estrogen. Am I reading that correctly? Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's read the definition for estrogen, which is a noun from 1927. Okay, it's a very long definition. Do you want to read this or should I read this?
Go for it. No, you
Okay.
read it.
This is any of various natural steroids, as estradiol, that are formed from androgen precursors that are secreted chiefly by the ovaries, placenta, adipose tissue, and testes, and that stimulate the development of female secondary sex characteristics and promote the growth and maintenance of the female reproductive system. Also, any of various synthetic or semi-synthetic steroids as ethinyl estradiol that mimic the physiological effect of natural estrogens.
Well done.
Thank you.
Well
sort
done.
of.
Yeah.
What did it get right? Did it get wrong? What information does the dictionary not have the physical space to tell us more about?
Oh yeah, I don't think there's anything incorrect in there. But yeah, I love that they managed to throw in that estrogen is made of androgen, because I find that to be really fun. So here's the thing. Here's my little like spiel on sex, because a lot of people, for political reasons, like to say, well, sex, you might be transgender, but you can't be transsexual because sex is immutable, and gender, whatever. If you want to make up definitions, that's fine. Talking to the nasty side of things. But the thing is, this so-called sex that they want to separate from gender is itself a random couple of switches that don't always do what you think they're going to do. So here's the deal. If when you are a little baby zygote, you have something called the SARY gene, and I'm not making that up. It's
How is that spelled?
SRY.
SRY. Okay.
Stands for sex determining region Y gene.
Mm.
Then that SARY gene may or may not flip on a Y chromosome. And then that Y chromosome may or may not flip on the development of testicles. And then those testicles may or may not flip on so much androgen that is what your body gets and you become a male. So there's a lot of steps in there. You can have a SARY gene and not be assigned male at birth. You can get a Y chromosome and not be assigned male at birth because of the outward appearance of your genitalia. And you can get all of that and still be pretty low T because your testicles produce the same amount of androgen and estrogen. And I know you're thinking, what? Why would testicles make estrogen? That's crazy. Well,
wait a minute. That's crazy. How are testicles creating both of those? That's crazy. Can you explain that?
testicles are ovaries. They're just on the outside. The same thing that develops into ovaries is what develops into testicles. Your body just tends to put them into a different place depending on that SARY gene.
And on that note, real quick, can we also say that the clitoris is literally the same thing as the penis? The amount of nerves, it's the same part of the body that turns one into the other based on the switches that are being switched.
It's the same sensitive tissue that feels good.
Yeah.
Same reasons, same everything. And that's why they can actually do what they do. Because there is a bridge between the two. It's not like you have to make it from scratch.
We're
but
more
anyway.
closely related than we think.
Exactly.
Okay, yes, proceed, please.
So there's a little extra work at the beginning of life to make something male. A little extra work on the front end.
Because we start as female.
Yes, you start naturally female, and then the SARY gene comes in and does a little bit of extra work and sets into motion all this male stuff.
Sorry.
And then from there, the SARY gene does the work, and then you coast. Because androgen is what your body's hormone-producing glands produce by themselves at first. And then your body, based on other genetic things, decides whether or not to turn it into estrogen. So all women's estrogen starts as androgen, and then it gets turned into estrogen. And this process is, in my mind, hilarious. So, because
it's not the word that I was thinking that you were going to use.
So yeah, men a little extra work up front, and then you get to coast. Women a little lazier at the beginning, but then you got to work the rest of your life to stay that way. So that makes sense, right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
in so many ways,
it
women's bodies are doing so much more work for the rest of their lives. So because my brain is like about to explode, the ovaries are first creating androgen, which then turns into estrogen along the road.
Yes, because okay, so here's the places that produce androgen. Your pituitary gland, your gonads, whether they're testicles or ovaries, your brain. Those are the three biggest sources of androgen, of hormones. Mm-hmm. In men, that's great. It just happens. It's fine. The androgen just flows around. Okay?
Fantastic.
We're set. In women, in the ovaries mostly, there are two. I'll get to the other place that this can happen. But in the ovaries, they're flooded with this thing called aromatase. And aromatase is a protein that surrounds androgen and beats it up until it turns into estrogen through a
Wait. Can
process.
you just re-say that again?
Okay. So in the ovaries, androgens are just being pumped out by the billions. And then the aromatase surrounds it and beats it up until it turns into estrogen through a process that I'm not making up called aromatization. So think of it like this. Androgen comes out of the ovaries, and then all these little aromatic flowers and potpourris surround it until it becomes chicky, like a lady,
Chicky.
ladylike, shall we say?
What's sugar and spice and everything nice?
Sugar, that's the sugar and spice and everything nice.
Yeah.
Now, what the hell is aromatase? And what is it? What is it? Well, it's iron. It's the same exact compound that carries your oxygen in your blood. It's iron surrounded by an aromatic ring. That is the actual scientific term, an aromatic ring.
An
Isn't that
aromatic ring. It
beautiful?
sounds so nice. Well, I had to go look back because I thought, well, is this aromatase in the dictionary? And of course it is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's said very simply. It just says, and so I would have read this 5 years ago, give or take. An enzyme or complex of enzymes that promotes the conversion of an androgen into estrogen. And it doesn't say anything about beating it to a pulp, but I definitely think that should be added because that is a much more visceral, visual thing. I'm sure there's some more, but yeah, that was the main part.
Yeah. So here's what it does. This is
Yeah.
beating it to a pulp. I can break that down a little bit. So the androgen gets its carbon atoms kind of juggled around by the aromatic ring.
Mm.
It pops a little oxygen hydrogen molecule on it to sort of break it up and loosen it up. And then it mixes it all up and then it takes the hydrogen out. So what you have when you have an estrogen is essentially an androgen with a little bit of oxygen in it. It's just androgen with a little breath of life on top. That's estrogen.
That makes sense.
Yes.
So is it adding the oxygen or removing the hydrogen or both?
It's adding an oxygen and a hydrogen.
Oh.
Because that's what the little molecule kind of like gets attracted to and says yum. And then it uses that looseness to rearrange the carbon atoms. And then on its way out, it pulls that extra hydrogen back out. I am way oversimplifying the biochemistry here, but that is what happens. If you read like a simplified definition, I'm sure it would say something along those lines. So these aromatases, only girls get them? They only happen in ovaries? Oh, no.
No, of course not.
Everybody has aromatase in them, and the more fat you have, the more aromatase you have. It hangs out in fatty tissues. And that's why when you get obese, you grow boobies. It's not just because your body's putting more fat up there. It's because you're gradually increasing the amount of estrogen in your body. You are literally giving yourself hormone replacement therapy, except you're not turning off the testosterone. You're just increasing the estrogen in your body so much that you start to lose body hair and you start to grow breasts. Isn't that cool?
Yes, that is very cool. That the human body is a wonder. And of course, you just knew all this information. You never studied it or anything.
No, I had to learn. I mean, I was fascinated by all this because I was sort of like, being a performer, being let's say public figure or whatever.
Yeah.
In Texas, when I was coming out in the mid 2000s, right before Caitlyn Jenner and then right after. So right when there was a ton of, conversation, let's say, around this topic, I found myself having to defend my actions a lot.
Sure.
And the more I learned about it, the more I realized like what I'm doing or what I've done and what I'm doing to my body is not, from a hormone perspective, all that radical. It is just tipping the scales in a slightly different way than they got tipped. And in my case, it didn't even need to be done. It wasn't much. It didn't take much. And I'm not saying I'm special. It doesn't take much for most people.
Yeah.
And here's the thing that I think a lot of people don't understand and why this continues to be controversial. And I'm not going to get super political. I'm just going to say
You can get super political if you want, but
Okay.
you don't have to.
Well, I'm going to say this and help people draw or redraw their political conclusions accordingly. Children who are exploring hormone blocking for transitional reasons because they think they might want to transition or because they know they want to transition. And when I say children, I say people under the age of 18 are just taking the blockers. All they're doing is taking some pills that will take the ovaries and take the testicles that are going into overdrive because they're in puberty and saying, hold up, chill out and go back to where you were before puberty started. That's all they're taking. Even if they take replacement and add new hormones in, it's the same hormones their body's making. They might be adjusting the tilt, but they're not adding anything into their body that they wouldn't already get. They're just tilting the levels. If they change their mind and stop taking the blockers and stop taking the add-ons, then their natural production factories will go right back into gear and they will have the same body they would have had if none of that had ever happened. With two exceptions. There's only two exceptions, and this is important for people to understand. Yeah, you might grow breast tissue. Good news about breast tissue is you can suck it out and cut it off. Not a big deal. It happens all the time. It's really easy to do. Fat people lose weight and they get breast reduction surgery, and it's fine. Our society doesn't have as much to say about that. And your voice will deepen and you'll trigger body hair growth in places that you may not have otherwise done if you add testosterone in.
Right.
Before, more testosterone than your body was planning on producing. That's it. Nothing else. You will not be sterile. You will not grow bones that you weren't going to grow. People talk about like jaw muscles and all that. Only if you persist into your 20s, because androgen changes that lead to jaw muscles and shoulders and Adam's apples happen in your 20s. It's much later because your body's always making androgen. So it makes that decision last. That's the last step of the pubescent growth cycle. So I think that's important for people to realize with all this controversy around children and sort of like transgender topics right now. There's a lot of people that think that it's mutilation or that's unnatural. It's about as much of a tweak as braces, and it's just as reversible.
Yeah, obviously there are a lot of people who don't know what's involved with that because that is not part of their life. And I obviously don't know it as well as you do, but I know it better than them that nobody's putting kids through surgery.
No,
that there are laws in place. There are
no surgeon would do it.
Right.
Yeah,
that's not happening. There are many conversations that are had with parents, guardians, doctors, therapists. And then after all of that, I mean, this is the little bit that I know, then, okay, if you are very, very serious about this, if this feels right to you, then let's talk about the hormone adjustments. Yes. And like you said, it is basically all reversible, when you're at that age, that puberty age.
And you can take, and usually in most states and in most care providers, you have to be on blockers up to a certain age and for a certain amount of time before you can add in the hormones that you are aiming towards. So even then, there's plenty of time before everything even gets even remotely unreversible. And again, the unreversible things are body hair, which you can shave, and breast tissue, which you can remove.
People are shaving body hair anyway.
Except women grow body hair. Just they're going to grow more of it if they take testosterone, right?
Wait a minute. Women have body hair?
Facial hair. All hair, all the hairs, right? Nipple hair, it's all there.
It's all over the place.
It's just not as wiry, I guess. But yeah, so that said, what was I going to say? Oh, on the point of no surgeon would do it. I'm not just saying that but maybe we should pass some extra laws to make sure surgeons can't do it. The reason no surgeon would do it, because even if a surgeon wanted to and said, I'm making a political stance that this 16-year-old needs to have gender reassignment surgery. I'm going to do it. The reason they wouldn't is because they're not done with puberty yet, and it won't stick. It won't work. It won't take. You absolutely have to have a full, let's just say male to female, right?
Yeah.
You have to have a fully grown penis to do the job. There's just not enough material to work with otherwise. And so it's not going to happen. This fear that that's happening or that will happen is completely as misplaced as a fear of, say, 14-year-olds getting nose jobs. Oh, wait, that actually happens. That seems like something we should be a lot more concerned about. 12-year-olds getting tattoos. That's just as reversible, but we're way like chiller about it, or just as like much medical stuff involved. Anyway, that's enough on my rant. Main point is androgen and estrogen are the same damn thing. Just one of them's aromatic and the other one isn't.
Aromatic. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
You were talking before about all those switches that have to get switched. And I couldn't help but think of the documentary Everybody, which I have mentioned on this podcast multiple times. Are you aware of this documentary?
I'm not. No.
It is all about intersex people. That's so all along that trail of switches being switched or not, that's what happens based on your explanation, is that, well, this switch might be switched here, but it doesn't get switched here, and that's why, like you said, you could have XY genes, but you don't present as male, or for whatever reason. Like the nature will do anything. Anything is possible with nature. So every possible thing is possible, and that's what this whole documentary is about. It follows three people mostly, and they're talking about how they were presented one way at birth, but are not this way biologically. That's the whole important part about biologically. You can't put them into one bucket or the other because it's so silly that we have these two buckets.
Right. And that's the thing. Like, I'm not the kind of crusader, and there are those crusaders, and good for them. I'm sitting back to wait to see what they can get to, but I'm not the kind of crusader who says we shouldn't have gender. I get it.
Right.
From a social perspective and from just kind of a society, gender's there, it exists, it's fun, why worry about it? But when people insist that sure, you can dress however you want, but your biological gender will never change, I'm like, it's kind of the opposite. You have to really follow a lot of rules to have a social gender, but biologically there's barely gender. It really comes down to a couple switches that happen early on that just decide whether to put your gonads on the inside or the outside. And that's it. Everything else that happens is easily changed through natural and human processes. It's not a big a deal. It's similar to how height, they've discovered, is driven more by diet than genetics. Genetics help. Genetics make a difference. But a country, a whole nation can and does get taller when their nutrition improves. Like that kind of thing makes me like think, why are we so worried about biological gender? You can change your body with very simple, natural, different things. You want to have more estrogen in your body? Overeat. Your body will take it from there. I'm not kidding.
Pack on the pounds.
Pack on the pounds, and you'll have
get
more
some more
estrogen.
Yeah.
And
if you want those man boobs.
If you want less estrogen, take the weight off. Although, because ovaries are such prolific estrogen makers, it's not true. Yes, very, very fat men do have a lot of outward effects of having that extra estrogen. It is not true that very, very lean women have more testosterone. They don't.
Right.
It just can't overwhelm the amount of estrogen their ovaries produce. But you can. It is enough. It's enough that you can get toned, you can get muscular in ways that aren't typically associated with female bodies by losing body fat first.
Yeah, we know there's a lot of people out there, women who become bodybuilders and look, quote unquote, very masculine, but they, born as a woman the whole time. Well, like you were saying, there is the line between male and female is so much more wishy-washy than probably a lot of people want to think about, or a lot of people even realize, especially in those early years of life.
Yeah, prepubescent human beings. If you took away the genitalia difference that was determined in the womb, have pretty much the same amount of estrogen and androgen. They're until your like testicles and your ovaries go into overdrive.
Mm-hmm.
All children are within like a couple percentage points of having equal hormones. So that's where it gets so ridiculous that we treat little boys and little girls so differently and talk about their vastly different personalities and all that. They're chemically exactly the same until puberty. Give or take natural fluctuations in individual hormone production
Yeah.
in their
And then
brains and in the pituitary glands.
And then once puberty hits, all hell breaks loose.
Then the factories are on, and it's a lot of work to undo that. And trust me, it's a lot of work, but yeah, it can be undone.
So you were in your 20s when you started doing this transition,
30s.
started transitioning?
Mid-30s.
30s.
Very late. Yeah, which meant I got fewer benefits, far fewer benefits, because I was well past all the androgen pubescent work.
Right. That's what I was thinking about, is that obviously it's one process, you'll have one experience if you go through that at that young age, but once you become an adult, it's a very different experience. With as much information as you're comfortable with, can you give some descriptions of sort of how what that has been like for you?
Yeah, I mean, it didn't. The thing is, it's more of a confirmation than a transformation. And I don't know how we come up with the new word for that, because transition is not a horrible word for it. It is a process, but it's more of a transition. Always sounds like you're starting at point A and going to point B, and point B is the new thing, the estranged thing. And it feels like the opposite. When you're truly full of gender dysphoria, it definitely feels more like, oh, now the signals I'm getting from my brain and my body, the signals that are coursing through me through my hormones, are aligning with my humanness, my soul, my personality. That's what it feels like. It feels like an alignment that wasn't there before. I don't know if you ski, but to anybody out there who
skied.
Yeah, anybody who's
Not
skied
well.
out there, that moment when you take your ski boots off and you put on your regular boots again, the way your feet feel, like, oh yeah, regular shoes.
Normalcy.
That's hormone replacement therapy. That's what it feels like when you're trans. If you're not trans and you were to go through this, you would feel menopausal. You would feel estranged from your body. You would want to stop it, and you would be uncomfortable and sweaty, and like it really is. There's a lot of studies, and this is why there is such a low regret rate amongst the trans population, is because there's a lot of steps along the way that you have to take where you get a clear signal of like, keep going, or whoa, nope, not for me.
Yeah. So many steps emotionally, physically, and also just like medically. There are a lot of steps along the way. And yeah, I like that you said that it feels more like you're, and I can't remember the exact word you said, but you are becoming who you are meant to be. It's like you are diverged, and you are coming, those two parts of you, physically, emotionally, whatever that is, are coming together into what you should be, feel like you should be. I'm not going to put words in your mouth, obviously, that everybody's different. And so, yeah, that was just a really good way to put that, and I think is probably really helpful for people to hear it in those terms.
Yeah, I mean, imagine, puberty sucks for everybody, but imagine if your experience of going through puberty is that you're going the wrong way.
Yeah.
Because I always felt like a girl in my childhood, just naturally. I didn't say it. It was a little secret I kept because I could tell all the adults would freak out if I said that. But that's what I did, those kind of things. I wanted to hang out with the girls. I got caught going into the girls' bathroom a lot in elementary school before they drummed into me why that was a bad idea. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I'm a bit of a tomboy. I wasn't like the play with dolls type. I wasn't the wear dresses type, but I don't think I would have been anyway if I had not
Right.
had the sorry gene. But that was like just normal. Everything was good. When puberty hit me and I started to realize it was going the wrong way, I panicked. I mean, that was
Mm.
horrifying. And everybody kept telling me, well, puberty's rough. That's just how it feels. And I was like, okay. And then the longer I got away from that, the more I realized, no, that was more than rough. That was the wrong direction. And
Yeah.
it took a long time for me to understand because trans issues weren't really talked about in the 90s
Right.
and the 2000s the way they are now, what that meant and what was out there, and how all this stuff that I just shared is true, that there's not that much of a distance or a gap between the biologies here. And it's very, for lack of a better word, easy to do if you want to. But yeah, you have to want to because it's hard to get to. It's hard to start. Starting takes a lot of approvals and a lot of conversations and a lot of are you sures. But if it is the right thing for you, it's not that big of a deal. It's just not that
Yeah.
big of a deal.
Well, and especially because it's that confirmation.
Hmm.
Once you know, like, yes, this is the right thing to do, then like none of that even matters,
Yeah.
right? It's like this is the right path
Yeah.
once you know that, yeah. And I'm so grateful that we are living at a time where this conversation is being had, and it is now so much easier for people who are young, who are going through that time that you didn't get a chance to go through it the way that you probably would have liked to. Puberty, they're going through it and they're able to make that decision for themselves at that right age.
Yeah.
And so less people are going to have the struggles that the people who came before them had, like you, and people who are people who are gone, people who have lived a whole life and got into their old ages the whole time feeling not right in their body.
Yeah. I mean, is it the worst thing that can happen to you? No. There's there's other mental and physical ailments that are far worse. So,
Yeah.
um it's not quite a tragedy, but it is like the fact that we can take this thing that makes life worse and make it better is only a good thing. It's only a good thing. That's
Yeah.
definitely the way I feel about it.
The bodies are a crazy, crazy thing.
Yeah.
Should we talk about one more word in this episode?
Sure.
Can you
Whoosh.
make one? Yeah, that's it. Okay, estrogenic. I'm sorry, you do not get to talk about, unless you want to come back, you don't get to talk about all the wonderful words in the next episode, like estrogen replacement therapy and estrone and Anyway, so estrogenic is an adjective from 1930. Number one, promoting estrus. Something in the body that's promoting that crazy, crazy time of estrus would be estrogenic. Number two, of, relating to, caused by, or being an estrogen. And we've learned that there are multiple estrogen hormones, and that world is so much bigger than we realized. And so, yeah, just related to that is estrogenic. And estrogenically is an adverb.
Well, this has been an estrogenic episode, I think.
Yes, probably the most estrogenic of this whole podcast. Any sort of last things that you didn't get a chance to say that you would want to say about anything, really?
No. I think I definitely got my piece said there. I'll
Yeah.
stop ranting and raving.
No, I
Just
like.
everybody should visit Estonia. That's what I want people to take away from this
Yeah.
podcast.
Well, you now get to pick a word of the episode, and I will read them to you so you can remember. We had today estivation, Estonian. It's interesting that we don't have Estonia, but yeah, I guess that makes sense. Estonian, estoppel, estra, estradiol, estral cycle, estrange, estray, estriol, estrogen, and estrogenic.
I am going to pick estrange. I think that is the word that wraps up everything that we said about estrogen in one nice package from my point of view.
Yeah, maybe when you went through puberty, you felt estranged from the hormones that you wanted to have.
Everybody else felt disaffected.
Yeah.
I was estranged, and that's why all that goth music truly spoke to me more than any of all you bitches. I knew it. I knew
Yeah.
it.
The very last thing I like to do is sing a little song about the word of the episode off the top of my head, and you can absolutely say no if you don't want to do that. Mine are incredibly simple and stupid. And a strange song.
You're gonna sing an estranged song? Okay.
It's
Go for it.
literally like just sometimes just singing the word. Estrange is a strange word, and that's it. That's all we need.
It's more of a jingle than,
Yeah.
than a full song.
Yeah, it's just a musical thing.
Um,
And if you wanted to do one too, you could.
I'm gonna say people are strange when you're an estranger. Yeah.
That was much better than mine.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you so much for doing this and giving us multiple lessons about hungry and estrogen and the body and more things than I was expecting today. Anything else that you want to plug that we haven't talked about, or just replug things?
Oh no, come play with us at Botch Party on Twitch. It's easier
Yeah.
than if you've never been on Twitch, it's easier than you think. It's not that scary.
It's like YouTube. You just click a link.
You click a link and you're there. It's fine.
Yeah. Fun movie talk.
Yeah.
Thank you for being on the show, agreeing to do this, and getting all your thoughts out. And if you have more thoughts, we can always talk again. This is the end of the episode, everybody. Thank you very much for consuming my content. And until next time, this is Spencer dispensing information. Goodbye.